I know this is kind of how you feel, but this is the time of year where we start to look at completing projects around the house.
Grouted a few bathrooms over the weekend. One viewer has a potential project, though, in his garage that he'd like some advice on.
For that, let's turn it over to Peter Fink, the owner of Certified Transmission. Always a pleasure. Peter, good to see you.
Nice to see you.
Always a great time.
Fan of the Omaha Heart. That's cool to see you cross paths.
Definitely. You know, I've gone to several games. And I'll tell you what, it's really a legit football, okay?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the same as going to watch the Huskers, obviously, but I mean, boy, they really hit hard.
They
I mean,
play.
the first one I thought maybe it'd be almost like flag football or something, or touch or something. No. I mean, they hit me down there, they'd be taking me to the hospital. I mean, it's hard hitting.
It's definitely different because you don't see Tommy Armstrong getting a spray tan before the game. It is different, though.
Definitely.
But let's get to this first question. This is from Chelsea. She's up first. She writes, I have a 2002 PT Cruiser that is prone to overheating to the point that it's become unreliable. Is that an issue that's fixable, or is it time to start looking for a new car?
Well, great question. You know, everything is always fixable. Now, the question is it worth the value of the car? Okay. Cooling problems actually are fairly simple, but usually what ends up happening is people don't really diagnose them properly, and they'll just start throwing parts at it, okay? That's the worst thing you can do, okay? First of all, most cooling systems come from a neglect of not changing the antifreeze on a regular basis. There's a lot of reasons for that, okay? One of them is I think it's very deceptive by the manufacturers of antifreeze. They say it's permanent antifreeze, okay? Well, permanent means I don't have to change it, does it? Okay? Well, that's what I feel is so misleading, okay? The other thing is, if they don't use that, they'll say you can change it every 3 or 5 years or something. Well, the problem is nobody really remembers when the last time was, and because it's hard to keep track of that 3 years, okay, and stuff, all right? So you really need to get always on a shop with a shop, do regular maintenance, follow that maintenance schedule, and then it doesn't happen. Now, back to this question, okay? You really need to test it out. Cooling systems are fairly simple. The simplest thing would be a bad radiator cap, but they can check, you can have that checked. Next would be the radiator is plugged up or not doing properly, okay, from neglect of changing the antifreeze, okay? Next, a lot of people always throw a water pump on, okay? Well, that again can be checked, okay, and stuff. And the last thing that can cause a problem is you have a bad head gasket because the antifreeze got so old it gets real acidy and it eats through, and that one is very expensive, okay, and stuff, all right? So you're going to need to get to a good shop and check it out. Otherwise, like I said, people start throwing parts at it. The other thing is, don't forget about the cooling fan. On these newer cars, they're all electric. And one easy way you can check yourself is turn your air conditioner on and see if that cooling fan comes on. If you turn the air conditioner on, it should always turn the cooling fan on. If it doesn't, then you might have a cooling fan problem, okay, and stuff. Again, a good shop will be able to check this out. There's really no guesswork. I would think in most case scenarios, you should be able to get this car back on the road, minus a head gasket, probably for $500 or less, okay, and stuff, you know. So I think it's still worth it to fix it, okay, and stuff, you know. So.
I know you're a fan of keeping cars as long as
well,
you can.
Like I said, I mean, with good maintenance, they'll run 200, 250,000 miles, okay, and stuff.
Dave is next, and his question is, well, statement then question. I'm having trouble with my 98 Chevy Malibu 4-cylinder. When I start the car up, everything is fine. The problem starts when I press the gas and let go. The car starts to jerk as if I'm pressing the gas and letting go repeatedly. When I press the brake after all of that, the car stalls sometimes. What does this mean?
Well, without really seeing the car and without actually asking a lot more questions, this one's going to be really, really speculative. But obviously we got a sensor that's not working properly, okay? It could be something like the mass airflow sensor is what I'm kind of thinking. It's possible an oxygen sensor. It could be that we have a miss, okay? That one of the plug wires or spark plugs isn't working properly, or possibly even a coil on this. On a 4-cylinder, it is really, really, really temperamental. If you don't have all 4 cylinders firing properly, it will not run, it will barely pull itself, and it will die when you put your foot on the brake and everything else. Again, this doesn't sound like it's a major problem, okay? You know, again, possibly a little bit of neglect here, okay, from regular maintenance, okay? Maybe not. It could be, you know, parts do go bad, okay, and stuff. But again, I think it'd be fairly simple for a shop to check this one out. I don't know, without the tools at home, you know, cars are getting really, really tough to fix at home by yourself, okay? I mean, you can do some simple things, okay, changing your oil, rotating your tires, some of the things. Obviously, there's some people that can do brake jobs and things, but without a scan tool and voltmeters and everything else, it's really hard to check out, and then all you're doing is throwing parts at it. And the last thing I ever recommend, that's the most expensive way to fix a car.
Right,
Oh,
you're just guessing.
it does, yeah. I mean, once in a while you'll get lucky, but I mean, most of the time you won't.
Yeah,
Okay,
Peter, this next question is right up your alley because
All
Joe writes, I want to restore my car from high school, which hasn't started in about 23 years. I worry about being taken advantage of if I don't find the right technician. In general, what would you recommend looking out for as I start this process?
Well, obviously there's two ways to restore this car. I don't know if we mean really restore it from the ground up and meaning the body and everything. He said this car hasn't been started for 23 years. Obviously the fuel system is going to be a major problem here, okay? If you did not start this and drain the fuel out of it, you're going to have bad gas, and it might have even plugged up the lines on it, okay? Personally, I've seen some cars like this, okay? I have to say, shamefully, I did that to one of my old cars, okay, and stuff. And literally, we had to drop the gas tank and clean out all the fuel lines and the carburetor and everything else. If it's 23-year-old, it's going to be a carbureted car. So start on getting it running. Start with the fuel system to see what we got. Next, as far as where to go, he's saying, you know, this is going to be a little bit of a specialty shop deal because most places don't really get into restoring cars, okay? There's a couple great ones around the metro area that you can go to. Needless to say, it's not a cheap venture, okay? I have seen people that can restore a car that might spend anywhere from $50,000 to $150,000, okay? Now, I don't know what ballpark he's talking in, or even only $5,000, you know, and stuff, but it can get really expensive, okay, and stuff. But there's a lot of great shops around to check you. If you needed to, call me. I can recommend a few. So
I like that. All right, 5 locations for certified transmission in our area. You can also make appointments online. If you feel like you need the help of Peter and his team, go to certifiedtransmission.com.
Thanks, Peter.
Thank you.
Have a great week.
Your question could be featured during our next visit with the crew from Certified. Email talkback at omahamorningblend.com. Visit our website and click on Certified Transmission. There's a button there. Or leave questions on our Facebook wall.